Yeah, I got a clip on. Hey, everybody, how's everyone doing? Give yourself a big round of applause for being here at SDC. I'm so excited to have you guys here today because I have this awesome panel. You guys are very lucky. If you guys are interested in the voice AI space, you guys are in the right place. So my name is David O. I'm the GM for Bixby. And I wanted to introduce you my esteemed guests. Many of them, or all of them, are actually Bixby Premier developers. And so this year, we actually launched our Bixby tools, as well as our platform for open platform, AI platform for developers to build their own AI assistants. So with that being said, we actually offered this program called the Bixby Premier Developer Program, which offered white glove technical and marketing support, loaner devices, but most people were really appreciative of having Adam Cheyer as a mentor into this program. So being part of this platform, you get to actually get some mentorship from Adam, and Adam will explain who he is in a second. So with that being said, I want to introduce my first guest, Rachel. Hello, how are you doing? Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me here today, David. My name is Rachel Batish, and I'm VP Product at Audioburst. At Audioburst, we bring a whole new listening experience for talk audio content. So basically, we listen to around 6 million minutes a month of broadcasted radio and podcasts. And our AI system is analyzing this content and then cutting it into short-form audio clips. Then instead of listening to a full radio show or a 45-minute podcast, we give you just the topics that are of interest for you. And basically, you get a playlist of everything that you care about that just streams into your ears through various platforms today. And one of them, we're happy to say, is also Bixby.
Thank you. And if any of you want more information on how to get a hold of Rachel, this is her Twitter handle. So take photos if you need to. I highly recommend it. Okay, let me get out of the way here. How's that?
Maybe it's because it's an iPhone.
Ouch! Ouch! Cool, awesome. My next guest, Stephen. Stephen, do you mind telling the audience who you are a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm Stephen Arkonovich. I'm actually a professor of philosophy at Reed College in Oregon, but I'm here because I'm involved in the Bixby Premier Developer Program. I'm also the founder of Big Sky, which gives voice-first multimodal weather experiences, very popular on other platforms, and I'm super excited to bring it to Bixby.
Thank you, Stephen.
Hi,
Piyush?
my name is Piyush Hari. I'm the founder of Dilly Labs. It's a tech startup based out of San Francisco, and we're focused on creating voice applications and voice services. How many of you, by the show of hands, are dog owners or pet owners in general? Well, we have something for you. It's called Dr. Pooch that caters to one of our use cases. I'm a dog owner myself, which is if your dog grabs something off the floor and you're not sure if he or she can eat it, you ask Dr. Pooch. So you say, hi, Bixby, ask Dr. Pooch, can dogs eat grapes? Can dogs eat steak? Can dogs eat garlic? All those kind of questions that you search online and spend a minute on. So that's pretty much what Dilly Labs and Dr. Pooch is all about.
Piyush, what does Dilly Labs stand for?
Well, Dilly is the acronym which stands for something that is our philosophy. It's D-I-L-L-I, and it stands for do it with love and love it.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Adam.
So I'm Adam Cheyer. I'm co-founder of Viv Labs and VP Engineering. That's the company that sold to Samsung about 3 years ago to power the new Bixby platform and tools. Before that, I was co-founder of Siri, which sold to Apple. I was founding member of Change.org, the world's largest petition platform with more than 300 million members. And I was co-founder of Sentient, which is an AI machine learning startup.
And so, you know, one thing that I really have respected throughout my career of actually knowing Adam is his background, and his background of really, I call him like the godfather of voice AI, of really kickstarting this movement. So, please come check out the booth, come spend some time with Adam. Our Bixby booth is located on the exhibit floor, so hope to see all of you there. Fantastic. So, with that being said, as you guys know, voice assistants are actually very ubiquitous today, right? 1 in 4 adults in the US regularly interact with a voice assistant. And as this proliferation is going, phase 1 has been relegated to mobile phones and the smart speaker. But we're entering really phase 2. Just in a short amount of 4 years, phase 2 is really about bringing voice assistants into digital appliances, televisions, wearables, and it's really having a voice assistant to help you in your lives, to improve your life all around you. So with that being said, Rachel, can you explain to the audience how and why you got into voice AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. So before joining Audioburst, I was a founder of Conversation One, which was a build once, deploy anywhere platform for conversational applications. I got to Conversation One, into the idea of Conversation One actually from the world of mobile. So for me, conversational design today, or conversational interfaces as a whole, is just another layer of communication with our customers or with the people that we want to interact with. So the shift into conversational world was actually very natural, coming from mobile and then moving to another layer of interactions. I think also that from my perspective, I do not have a technical background. I studied international relations and political science, but I think that conversational design today brings something very different into the tech world. So instead of using computer language, we're actually using real people language. And thank God this is something that I have, and this is something that I could bring with me into the experience. And for me, it was a great advantage and a great experience also to try and go into a whole new world where we're trying to replace human with other humans, basically. So not robots, but actually other people that are talking to us in the same language that we would like to be addressed with. And I think that, just like you said, at the beginning it was phones, and then it's the speakers, but we see it everywhere. So it's basically everywhere where we would get a help from another person in the past, we're now getting it from some kind of a different creature or a different person in a form of some kind of an NLU that was developed at the background.
Great. Stephen?
Yeah, so I actually got into it as a consumer. I think like a lot of people, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I sort of confronted that technology, and it was magical. And just like being able to ask something and have something speak back to you. And so then I realized how helpful and natural of an interface it was. And I just started hacking together things that would make a voice assistant do what I wanted it to do, like search my music catalog or integrate with my contacts. And so I got into it just from a sheer passion for the technology.
Very cool. And Stephen, you actually have a really unique background. You're actually a professor of Reed College. Some of you don't know who Reed College is. Steve Jobs actually went there.
Yeah, he hung out there for a little bit.
Yeah. And how did you get into this space, with that background in mind?
Well, like I said, it was just driven by a desire to be able to do with these tools the things that I wanted it to do. I don't think it's an uncommon trajectory. You just start hacking around, you start learning more and more, and eventually it's taken me into the voice space and developing a number of applications and capsules now.
Very cool.
All right, so you rewind 3 years, 2016. I'd taken a leap of faith, quit my full-time job at Oracle to innovate, and I knew nothing about what I'm going to do. And by sheer luck, voice assistants were beginning to get popular, and I was at a similar event of a fellow company that is into voice assistants, and there was a hackathon, and I was a developer like you guys, and the challenge was create a skill, and if it's really good, we're going to give you a voice assistant device. So then I consulted my dog, and he told me, you can actually do this. Dr. Pooch. And believe it or not, that's my first skill, and it is productized, and now it's even monetized, and we have some interesting plans for it. So that's how I got into voice and got excited about it. And since then, we incorporated as Delhi Labs. We've created 25 plus voice applications. We've got a lot of clients on board, created voice applications for them. Start of this year, we worked with a prominent city in Nevada on a pilot project, created a voice assistant for the city to help city residents connect with city services via voice assistants.
Very cool.
I've been doing voice assistants and believing in voice for some time. My first instantiation of an assistant was in 1993, before I ever saw a web browser. And I said, someday there are going to be computers around the world with content and services we want to access. Because back then you just had a PC and all your programs were on it. I wanted to be able to reach out. And the whole idea of using multimedia hyperlinked documents to do that never occurred to me. I thought you'd have an assistant that you could say, I want to know this, or I want to do that. And it would break your request into subtasks, route it to the right machines around the world, bring back the results, present them to the user, learn from those interactions, and help the user get the job done. So I built that as a research prototype in 1993. A year later, I saw a web browser that solved some of those problems, but not all of them. And I still believe an assistant, if done right, can be more important than the web or mobile. And the full vision of being able to do everything that today you can do through web, through mobile, you should be able to do that through an assistant. And that's what we're trying to do with Bixby, is make the first truly scalable marketplace where it's not about what we build, it's about what you all build. And that's, I'm still been pursuing that vision all this time, but we're getting close.
Illuminating. Piyush, you touched upon a really good, you had a really good answer. You used to work at Oracle, and you actually found a use case, in this case, Love for Your Pet, to offer a solution around voice to actually solve a problem. So a lot of these developers here today, what can you tell them why they should think about voice AI and why they should think about developing for voice AI?
Voice is the future. We have seen a shift in the last 3 decades between desktop applications to web applications to mobile applications. Remember when Jobs actually launched the first iPhone, it was all about touch, because touch is more human than using a keyboard and a mouse. And then Samsung followed through and created their own smartphones. And now we're in the middle of a voice revolution where touch is being replaced by voice, which is even more human. So that's why I think voice is the future. Developers got to be excited about voice. I personally believe voice will be the interface for most applications. Businesses are definitely transitioning to voice sooner than I actually thought they would. So there's a huge opportunity for developers to get in. Get in early means you can be part of the Bixby Premier Developer Program, get the TLC, Tender Loving Care from Samsung and other companies. So I would say certainly that developers should think about having their own voice strategy, which businesses are doing, and to develop, to hop onto voice applications.
That's great. Rachel?
Yeah, so I think I would say there are 2 reasons why it's worthwhile to get into voice AI today. I think the first one is, although Adam has been doing it forever, I think we're still in early stages of actually making them work and be successful. And I mean, we've been all experiencing all the different virtual assistants today, and we know their limitations. So there's just so much more to explore and to, just so much untapped potential of what those solutions can do. And if you can be part of it, I think it's amazing. I mean, I started 3 years ago, being really early in time when conversational applications started to pop up. And on the one hand, it feels like so much has changed, and on the other hand, it feels like there's so much more to do. So if you have the opportunity to join as early as possible, then definitely you can enjoy different programs like the Bixby program, but just, even for yourself being in one of the most exciting places today that are out there in tech. The second reason, and we actually talked about it on our call before this, this panel, is, like I said, I'm not a technical person. In the past, I guess you'd have to be, something very unique like Adam to be able to include both, NLU and AI and all kind of capabilities that you have to have as a developer to build something like that. But with today's platform, whether Bixby or the others, all of that is done for you. So you just bring your own ideas into those platforms. And if you've seen the keynote and if you've seen the studio, it's so easy and it's so accessible for you to build those solutions today. So even if you're not an AI developer or a data scientist, it's not an issue anyway today, because all of those platforms are providing you with an end-to-end solution. The only thing that you have to bring is your own ideas. So bringing the dog idea or bringing, whatever other crazy ideas that you have in mind. And I think that this is something that you can't find in many other technology that are out there today. So the earliest you start, the better place you are. And then again, you don't have to be, super duper best developer ever out there to build those solutions. So there are no barriers for entry here.
That's a great point. I mean, we also, Adam during the keynote announced our templates, basically allowing you to create a Bixby capsule just with some Excel sheet. I don't know if you've seen his keynote where he did that fabulous magic trick. I highly recommend you to look at it online. So that's very cool, Rachel. Stephen?
Oh yeah, so I think I would just probably duplicate people's answers here, that I think voice is the future and it's inevitable. So if you're asking like, why should you get into voice? It's because I think very soon, almost any product you develop will have to have some kind of voice component to it. Even if it's not voice first, it's going to be multimodal, and so there's going to have to be, people are just going to expect to be able to interact with it in some way with voice. So I think, plus it's new and exciting, but it's inevitable, so you better hop on board.
Yeah, cool, very cool.
I already answered.
No, Adam.
Oh,
So for me, what's exciting about the space is that if you think about it, and kind of echoing what Steve was saying, every 10 years there's a new way of interacting, right? We used to have in the mid-'80s the PC, then in the 90s the web browser came, then came the smartphone 10 years after that, and last year was the 10th anniversary of the App Store, right? So we are poised for a new revolution. Now is the time. And the question is, why do I need another paradigm? It's because each paradigm brings computing to new contexts. So when we had the PC, you could only use the apps on your computer. The web let us compute using applications running on other computers. Mobile let you do it from not behind your desk, but you could be on a park bench or walking in the lamp poles looking at your phone down the street, right, and still computing. But there's still moments when a smartphone and a web browser aren't important. They're not useful because you're, jogging with your smartwatch, or you're cooking in your kitchen, or interacting with your family, or watching TV. Bringing up a browser and a smartphone just doesn't work. But an assistant who can understand you and get things done with you and for you are appropriate in these scenarios. So for me, I think when you create a business, it really matters what the idea is, whatever you're doing, but you want to get out your idea through as many channels as possible. And yes, web is important and smartphones are important, but this is a blossoming new paradigm, a new channel for you to get all of your services and content out to users in new contexts that they can't, you can't interact with them today. And I think that's an incredible opportunity. And the tools are coming, just as you were saying, and that really makes it easy to do that. So I think it's a huge opportunity to kind of get in and really separate yourself from the others who are not yet in that space.
That's super enlightening. Looking back at him, in terms of where the industry is now, with the relevance of smart speakers and smartphones, and of course what we're doing with Bixby and multi-devices, did you imagine that this is probably the state of where the technology would be back in 1993? Were you envisioning, is this further along? Is this less along? What's your perspective on that?
I would say both. I didn't think it would take this long for the idea to happen. It just seems so natural. It's like, I built it then, and I go, yeah, I want it. This feels great. I should be able to get access to every service and content I want through whatever device I'm interacting with. And in my earliest prototypes, I had a little tablet I could use a pen with. I could call from a wired phone, because we didn't have those wireless things yet, and use speech and a tablet. Or if the tablet wasn't available, I would just have a phone, and I would talk to the assistant, and it would talk back to me. So it felt so natural, and that the interface should adapt, but you're still getting to what you want from anywhere at any time. So that side, I'm like, wow, why hasn't it? I thought it would happen sooner. Now, the realist in me shows me that there's a lot of problems to solve. There were no web services then. There was no web then. Now there is. There weren't the supercomputer power. Speech recognition was not where it is today with the advances in deep learning and neural networks. And the devices are proliferating at a rate. How many devices, connected devices, do you have with you in your homes, carrying on your body? They're everywhere. And so I think now finally is the time where, as we said, we're early, but it's the time to start. And the challenge to solve for all of us is to scale this up so that it's not just a couple of things I use an assistant for. We need to get it to the point where we can use everything. Everything that I can do through the web, everything I can do through mobile, I should also be able to do with an assistant. Today, we're not there. So in some ways, I thought it would happen sooner. I'm really excited where we are today. I think everything is there available to make this happen, but we're still early in the process. There's a lot of work to do to mention Rachel's comments.
That's right. That's cool. One thing about voice assistants, which is really, really unique, is that it's not about the passive request. You're actually demanding something, and the assistant is supposed to retrieve that information for you versus trying to do search queries and trying to string along different pieces of content to answer a solution, like, for example, web browsing, versus asking it directly. Stephen has a really unique experience where, creating Big Sky, it's the most popular voice assistant for weather. It's very utilitarian, right? And people might say, well, that just seems just so, normal to actually ask for weather, because asking for weather is pretty much everywhere. Stephen, you actually cracked that nut to actually get, Big Sky out into the hemisphere of understanding how to interact with your voice assistant to just get weather. Mm-hmm. What should developers think about when designing for their first voice assistant experience?
Yeah, well, from a design point, I guess there's a couple things. First, of course, is the use case, obviously. I mean, you would want a use case that it naturally fits with voice. Some fit better than others, so that's certainly the first thing. And then from a design standpoint, you really have to think about voice design, right? Because it is a new interface. And just as in visual design, if you were building a web page, you would think about every visual element on that page. What does it do? Why is it there? How does it help? Is it distracting? For voice design, you have to think the same thing about every word. Why is it there? What is it doing? Is it distracting? Is it helpful? What order should it come in? So I think those are maybe those are end to end. Like at first, you need to make sure you have a use case, and at the end, it has to be implemented in a way that's helpful to the people who are using it, and that just means voice design.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So designing that experience from start to finish with the end user in mind to get that information.
Yes, that's right.
Very cool, very cool. Rachel, I always, introduce Audioburst almost like the Google search for podcasting, just on demand, get that podcast snippet of that information that I need before my big meeting, or, trying to have a conversation with someone, I just needed to know that information. Mm-hmm. Tell me about Audioburst, and what should developers start thinking about when they're also designing their experiences for voice?
Yeah, so I think even before we go specifically into Audioburst, I think that understanding the use case and actually focusing on one use case could make it could make it just easier for you to build a successful virtual assistant that would actually work. We all like to think, that you have that personal assistant that you can ask it anything in the world and it will tell you everything in the world. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. I mean, I would love to see it, and I do see places where there is correlation between different personal assistant and their capabilities. But right now, I think that those applications that actually function well are those that are very focused on a use case. And I think the capabilities, for example, of Bixby, and that was also introduced. So Bixby sits in the middle and understands your question and then goes back to the different application and actually pulls out the right application to provide with the answer. But that specific application is focusing on weather or focusing on search in audio talk. So when you are building your capsule or any personal assistant that you're building, focus on a specific use case. Again, think that you are replacing a person. So just like, the person you'll call at the bank is not the person you'll call to, book your next flight. This is how you should differentiate between the different personal assistant that you're building. So if you're doing something for a flight, focus on the flight, focus on the dog, focus on the weather, focus on the audio talk. So that would be just, like a general recommendation when you guys start building your capsules. Specifically for Audioburst, this is also a challenge that we're having because just like you said, Audioburst is capturing podcasts, radio, 6 million minutes a month, that's a lot of information. And one of the things that is challenging with personal assistant and voice is that it's unlimited in what the user can actually ask you, as opposed maybe to web browsing, right? So on a web page, you have the options and they're there. If you're looking for something else and it's not there, you can't reach out to this. But when you're talking to a personal assistant, you can ask whatever you want, right? So also for us with Audioburst, we had to think about all the different use cases and how people will ask for that specific snippet of a podcast, or what will they ask when they want to know the latest news on the wildfires right now. And keeping in mind all the different use cases and making sure that you are incorporating them into your personal assistant so that it doesn't end up with, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you say, which is the most annoying experience for the end user. So being very focused on your use case and keeping in mind that people ask things in different ways. So try out, listen to what people, most of the solutions today are also providing you with feedback of how people are actually interacting with your capsule or skill or whatever it is that is out there. Take a look at it, see how people are asking questions, and make sure that you are always working on it, because it's not a one-off. That it's not how it works. Like, you have to constantly make sure that your solution is updated with how people are interacting with it. And I think that this is one of the challenges that a lot of developers are having right now, is that you constantly have to work with your solution to make it better and make it work for your customers.
So how do you prototype something like that? Are you actually, are you doing, Q&A with people to figure out if they're asking specific questions, and then also training your utterances that way? How are you doing that?
Exactly. So I think, listening, testing, seeing how people are interacting is definitely number one. We also used a couple of creative people. So we said, those are the use cases. We think this is how people are going to ask the questions. And we said, please create variations out of it. So not just the synonyms, but really thinking how people will, just rephrase a sentence, taking into consideration people who are not native English, and they will ask questions differently, but you would still want to have support for those people, and creating as many utterances for each intent, basically. So utterances will be the questions or the sentences that people will say, and the intent will be the capability that you're providing. But I think that you could prepare a lot in prototyping, but once it's out there, once you see all the different ways, you get the feedback of what people are actually asking and what they're looking for, that's the best case to do that. It helps you to solve the utterances issue, but it also lets you know what other things people are expecting your solution to do, which is even more interesting. So maybe when people are asking for the weather, maybe they're asking, what should I wear today? Which is, maybe something that you weren't providing at the beginning, but then we're like, okay, I can actually answer that because I know the weather. I can tell them you should wear warm stuff today because it's freezing cold at the Samsung conference. Those are very helpful insights. So the more analytics and the more information that you collect from the solution that is actually out there, the better it will end up being.
That's great. Piyush, I hope you didn't poison a lot of dogs while you were trying to find out utterances that worked and
I had a
did not
disclaimer.
work.
I had a disclaimer in the description which says if I do, I'm not liable. You should consult a professional.
Yeah.
But coming from Dr. Pooch's experience, to add to what Stephen said, that's the most important thing, use case. It has to be a voice use case. And of course, what Rachel said, train your model to handle all the variations of the ways in which users can invoke your voice assistant application. That's really, really important. Apart from those two things, my 3-word answer would be keep it simple. Don't try to shove in tens of use cases for dog owners. The use case is, can dogs eat something? That's it. Don't even make it, can dogs drink in the first iteration. Iterate over it, add tens and thousands of more use cases if this one strikes the chord and becomes popular. And we sort of did similar thing with Dr. Pooch. Started with a simple use case, can dogs eat blah, blah, blah. Then came, can dogs drink orange juice? Then came, ask Dr. Pooch, can cats eat something? Then came, play a soothing sound for my dog, because anxiety is a big issue. Believe it or not, a lot of people are using Alexa or Bixby or Google Assistant for calming themselves, playing sleep sounds from Nick Schwab on Bixby, or just to calm their dogs. Because when you leave the dog, he's really anxious.
That's right.
So iteratively improve your capsule.
That's cool. Adam, how should developers think about before designing their first voice experience? What are the things that come to mind for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of the things we've heard here of, really know your use case, find the right use case that's going to fit. What we try to do at Bixby, we have an expert design team that tries to distill patterns and user guidelines that developers can access. So we announced the Bixby Views, which is, I think it's the richest palette of components that you can then build your specific application out of. Or the platform, so a shout out to Chris Brigham, co-founder, who's sitting there probably coding the next version of the platform as we speak, provides all sorts of capabilities that developers can choose to use, such as anytime Bixby asks the user a question, you can turn on machine learning so that if the user responds consistently, it'll stop asking the question, right? And you don't have to recode everything to do that. You flip a switch. So that's a platform feature that developers may choose to use that then users come to expect. So what I would say is, delve in deeper and deeper into the design patterns and the capabilities that the platform gives you and the design framework gives you. Fit it to your use cases that make sense. And we're trying to create a really powerful experience that feels familiar to a user across everything that it can do, whether you're checking the weather or asking about your dog or getting music. It should feel consistent at some level, because that's empowering for user to feel like, yeah, I know how to do that. I know how to click on a hyperlink. I know how to pinch and zoom on an app. And I know how to interact with a Bixby capsule. But within that, you need to then find what works best. Maybe it's a simple, clean experience that works for your use cases. So yeah, that's my guess, is really delve deep into what Bixby offers in user guidelines and really start simple, iterate, and flesh out what works for your use cases and expertise.
That's really cool. So these developers in the audience, they start understanding basically the user experience, mold that experience into a product. Now they have a voice product. Now they have a Bixby capsule. Now with that Bixby capsule, they're thinking, hey, how do I start a business around this? Adam, what tips do you have for some of these developers that want to create a new get into this new industry?
Yeah, again, I kind of talked about voice as a new channel. So I think you should start your business idea around your business, right? You need to have a product you're selling or content you're selling or service you're providing. And then you want to find as many ways as possible to get your service or content out to the world. Now, Samsung has 1 billion deployed devices, and you saw in the keynote, you kind of build a capsule once, and it's pretty trivial to make it work on lots of devices. That brings reach and customers, but ultimately, I'd say is really focus on a core need that someone's going to have. Think about the use cases. Some things, as you mentioned, are appropriate for a conversational assistant. Some things aren't, right? And if it is, I think Bixby is an incredible opportunity to take your business idea, your content, your service, your differentiation, and bring it as a channel to a lot of users in a lot of contexts that they're not, today you can't reach in other ways. So I think like 70% of US households have a Samsung device, I've heard, and the majority of those have more than one Samsung device. So it's in your home, it's in your life, it's with you on your watch, TVs, kitchens. So it's a segment, but ultimately it starts with you need your business idea. And I don't think, if you're focusing on content and service, start there and then really think about the channels that you want to bring that to, through Bixby and other methods.
That's great. So, another shameless plug, Adam was talking about how you can actually scale your business if you're thinking about voice. We also have the Bixby Dev Jam. Go to www.bixbydevjam.com. There you can enter to build your own first capsule, and tons of cash prizes, all that good stuff. But one thing that I've convinced Adam to do is that he's going to actually become a mentor of your startup around voice if you're one of the winners. That's kind of a big leg up because Adam doesn't do that. So, that's something you guys should check out definitely after this panel. Piyush, starting their business, what should they think about?
I'll give a very unconventional, possibly a wrong answer to this. Don't think about money, Start without thinking about money. Do it with love, love it. Get something out. Hackathons are a great way to test, proofread your ideas. Throw it, see if the judges like it. Launch it on Bixby Marketplace, see if the users like it. If they don't like it, stop doing it.
Get paid through Bixby Dev Jam
while
you're finding out if it works or not.
Yeah, exactly. But in all seriousness, riches with niches work. So find a niche that, we didn't even think about a niche. It was a personal use case, and we got into the pet category, arts and lifestyle. Then get in early, right? Bixby Premier Developer Partner. We didn't plan for Bixby Premier Developer Partner. We got noticed because of the work that we did with love, right? It's not because we were trying to monetize out of it. And apart from that, just, establish trust with prospects and clients, organic trust, organic networking, not like, hey, we are Dilly Labs. Would you like to hire us to create your voice app? Or would you like to buy Dr. Pooch? No, not like that. It has to be organic. Relate with dog owners, go to dog parks, talk about your capsule, and it works. It really does.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Steven.
Yeah. So I agree with Adam that it has to start with the business idea first, and then voice is an interface to that has to drive it. But voice does offer, and the tools that are available for a voice developer kind of make it easy to set out trial balloons, to fail early and often. I always like that idea. Just like, try things. If it doesn't work, try something else. Keep doing that. And I think the platform makes it really easy just to try things out, see if they work, iterate quickly, and pay attention to the customers. I think I grew Big Sky a lot simply by paying attention to what the people were saying about what they wanted, what they needed, what it provided that they liked, what it didn't provide, and sort of, don't invest your ego in it, just listen to what people want and give them that.
Give the people what they want.
Give the people what they want.
Love it.
That's a fail-safe idea.
Love it. Rachel.
Yeah, so I'll just say it depends, because I guess some of the developers here just want to build, capsules for fun, which, then you don't have to worry about the business model and how you actually make money out of it. And I think that this is quite a safe and fun environment to start from, is the Bixby Capsule Studio. And I think other developers already have a business, and for them it's how they start leveraging voice or start leveraging specifically Bixby to grow the business or to add another component to the business. And I think that others are just trying to build a business around that voice application. So there are different patterns that those developers go through. And I think that if we are looking at the third one, then I would say you do have to think about how you make money out of it at the end. If this is your business, I believe less in just build it and they will come. I think there has to be a great value proposition. There has to be some idea of what's the business model that gonna generate revenue out of it at the end, and then thinking about those two component parallel. I'm sure you'll be able to generate revenue, for your business if you keep those two in mind. And if you don't, then it means that one of them is just not working. So either the value proposition or the revenue generation. So sorry to be ruining the the fun part of building Capsule, but if you actually want to make a business and make money out of it, then keep that in mind as well. If you're doing it, you are becoming business people, so you have to make sure that it's not just for fun.
So for podcasting, looking for business models that worked, and then seeing if there's certain opportunity that you can take to a voice experience.
Exactly.
Very cool. So everyone knows the popularity of smart speakers, and that's the most recent peak that got people really interested in it. But as we know, your smartphone, it's actually double the size of people that interact with voice assistants today. For smartphones, there's like 146.6 million people that interact with their smartphones today. That's 2.5 times more than the smart speaker in the US, which is about 50 million. So with that being said, people are always talking about killer apps. Where are the killer apps? Rachel, where are the killer apps of today, and what do you think the killer apps will be for tomorrow?
I don't think we have killer apps today. I think we have utility apps. We have play music. We have set the timer, instead of the chicken thing, so it just makes it easier using voice. I'm thinking about what could be the killer app. I don't have it in mind, but I think that there's a lot through utility, and maybe it doesn't have to be a killer app because it's just something that is part of our lives. So everything that we do can be engaged through voice. So I don't think we're going to see that one killer app that is actually doing it, and telling us, okay, this is what you want to do. I think we skip that phase, and we're more in a place where we're saying, let me do everything with it, and the more that we do with it, we'll find out how hard it was to go back and be without it. So that will be the killer feature of voice, is that it will be very hard to get used to not doing things with voice, because we get used to doing something. I have a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old. They don't do that when they search. So okay, Google, they just talk to it, tell me this and this, or Alexa, how do I solve that and that? Things that I would never have thought to do, if they were not there. And they can't even, when I tell them search that, and I opened, and it was like, why are you open the keyboard, right? So those are the things, that's what's going to make it a killer paradigm, maybe, more than just a killer app.
Cool. Stephen, in terms of multi-device, I know that you're probably excited about Samsung's other devices, such as digital appliances, televisions, wearables. What are you most excited about Big Sky and different devices, and what would that experience look like?
Yeah, well, I think for Big Sky, sort of a weather experience, wearables, hearables in particular are just like a natural fit, a great use case. It's the kind of information that you'd want to get without, like if you're running or jogging, you don't want to pull out, you won't be able to maybe pull out your phone. So I think this paradigm of, I don't know, I've heard it called like Ambien computing, just the idea that you should be able to access the information you want anywhere at any time. I think that's going to be, again, it's not going to be a killer app, but it's going to be a killer interface, right? And it's if your app doesn't do that, if people can't access your app in that way, in all those ways, in all those places, I think it's just going to seem weird and retrograde. I mean, I think you're just going to have that.
Very cool.
I just want to say, think about the fridge. Like if it's really hot outside and then I get home and then the fridge tells me you have a really cold lemonade inside.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that would be cool.
That's cool. That's a killer app.
Adam,
I agree. I don't think there's a killer app. I think there's a killer platform that brings it all together. So the fact that the weather is talking with the fridge to the lemonade, it's the joining and conjoining that's really amazing. You say, help me plan a trip to my sister's wedding next month. I have to figure out how do I get there, where do I stay, what gift do I buy? So having the context that an assistant can bring, once you can do everything through it, I think for me, it'll be ubiquitous, it'll be integrated, it'll be everywhere, and you'll trust it, it'll know you, with the preferences, you'll know it, and that I think will bring us to a new level of experience. So we're not quite there yet, but we're heading fast in that direction, and that's what excites me the most about the conversational assistant space.
that's awesome. I think that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much, VIP panelist guests. Give a big round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. And please go check out the Bixby booth. Thank you.